And what he saw made his heart nearly stop. Inside the net was not a fish, not a turtle, not even a shark. It was a creature of half woman, half fish. Her hair floated around her neck like dark clouds. Her skin glittered as though woven from moonlight, and her eyes shone as deep as the ocean floor. A mermaid, Juba whispered, trembling. He had heard stories of such beings from the elders, but none had ever been caught before. The mermaid looked at him with eyes full of fear and pleaded softly, please, let me go, please. Sit by the fire and keep your ears open, for the night is long, and the story I'm about to tell you is not one to hear lightly. This is the tale of Lekoma, the village of shining wealth that was swallowed by the sea. Long, long ago, before the time of your father's father, before even the time of their fathers, there was a land surrounded by endless waters. No road led to it, no path came from it. The only way in or out was by boat. The land was called Lekoma, and it was blessed with waters, so clear that you could see the fish swimming deep beneath the surface as if they floated in air. The people of Lekoma were fishermen and divers, strong of arms and brave of heart. Their women wove nets from the fibers of palm trees and sang songs to call the fish closer to the shore. Their children grew up learning to swim before they could even talk. The sea provided for them fish for food, shells for trade, and most of all, the pearls hidden inside the sea anemones. These pearls shone like the moon, and traders from faraway lands came to buy them, bringing salt, clothes, iron, and spices. At first, the people of Lekoma were content. Their huts of palm wood and thatch stood proudly by the shore, and the laughter of children filled the air. They were not the richest people, but they had peace. But listen well, for peace does not last when greed enters a man's heart. One season, during the time when the waters were calm and the sky bright, a poor fisherman named Juba set out before dawn. Juba was a humble man with only one canoe and an old net patched more times than a cloth used for mending. He was not strong like other men, and he often came home with empty hands. Yet he was honest. He prayed to the spirit of waters each morning before he cast his net. That day, the sun had barely touched the horizon when Juba's net grew heavy. He thought it must be a great fish, perhaps enough to feed the whole village. With all his strength, he pulled and pulled until at last the net came up, and what he saw made his heart nearly stop. Inside the net was not a fish, not a turtle, not even a shark. It was a creature of half woman, half fish. Her hair floated around her neck like dark clouds. Her skin glittered as though woven from moonlight, and her eyes shone as deep as the ocean floor. A mermaid, Juba whispered, trembling. He had heard stories of such beings from the elders, but none had ever been caught before. The mermaid looked at him with eyes full of fear and pleaded softly, please, let me go, please. But Juba was only a poor man, and his heart wavered. He thought of his empty hut, of the hunger in his children's eyes, and of the way the chiefs looked down on him. So instead of freeing her, he paddled back to the village, dragging the mermaid in his net. Please, let me go. I just want to return to the sea. Juba looked at her. He felt sad for her, but then he remembered his empty pockets. The mockery. No one values him. He tied her up in a basket and said nothing. As Juba dragged the basket into the village, people saw what was inside. A mermaid, one person shouted. Juba caught a sea spirit, another cried. They danced and sang around him. Juba the Great, the man who caught the ocean's child. They helped him carry the basket. More and more people followed. They walked to the king's palace, excited and amazed. The palace guards opened the gates when they saw the mermaid. No one had ever seen something like that before. Inside the palace, the king came out. The king of Lekoma, a thin man named Kadim. He wore red and gold and sat on a big chair. When he saw the mermaid in the basket, he stood up. Call the chiefs, the king said. The chiefs came quickly and looked at the mermaid. Some were scared, some were angry. She is not one of us, said one. She might be dangerous, said another. We should kill her before bad things happen, said the third. The mermaid began to cry. Please, she said, I am not here to hurt anyone. I only want to go back to the sea. But the chiefs did not listen. The king raised his hand. We will kill her, he said. He told the villagers to go back home. It is not safe here, he told them. They obeyed and left the palace. Now only Juba, the king and the chiefs, and the mermaid were in the palace. As some chiefs got ready to take her away, others who had not seen her up close came near. One of them bent down and saw something shining on the floor. Diamond! The mermaid was crying, and her tears had turned to diamonds. Look, the chief shouted. He picked up the sparkling jewel. More tears dropped from her eyes. More diamond appeared. The floor began to shine. The king's eyes grew wide. Her tears are diamond, he said. The chief looked at each other. They forgot all about killing her. Their fear turned to greed. She must stay, the king said. We will not kill her. And King Kadim bent low to pick up one himself. He held it to the light, and his voice trembled as he declared, This is no ordinary stone. This is the purest diamond I've ever seen. That day, everything changed for Lekoma. King Kadim ordered that the mermaid should be kept alive, for her tears were worth more than all the pearls in the sea. He commanded the chiefs, She must weep every day. If she refuses, make her weep. And so they did. He looked at Juba. Not a word of this must leave the palace. Then he turned to the guards. Tell the villagers that she is evil and we have killed her. From that day, the mermaid was locked in a room deep inside the palace. No one outside the palace knew the truth. The villagers believed the mermaid was gone, but only Juba, the king, and the chiefs knew the secret. They locked her in a chamber beneath the palace. Each morning, guards came with whip, and though she pleaded, though she begged for mercy, they flogged her and forced her until her eyes rained diamonds. With these diamonds, the king grew richer than any in the world. Traders came from across the seas, offering gold, silver, horses, and silk. The huts of palm woods became houses of stone. The king's throne was carved from ivory and covered in jewels. The chiefs wear robes of velvet and rings on every finger. But what of Juba, the poor fisherman who had caught her? Ah, here lies the curiosity of men. Lean closer, for the fire burns low and the night grows deeper. The story of Lekoma is not one of joy but of sorrow dressed in shining clothes. You have heard how the first mermaid was captured, and how her tears of diamond made the kingdom rich. But wealth gained from pain always carries a cost, and the people of Lekoma was blind to it. The fisherman whose net had brought her forth. He was a simple man with a gentle heart, and though his hand had delivered her to the chiefs, he had not wished her harm. Yet the chiefs whispered among themselves, saying, If he speak, the secret will spread. If others learn that mermaid weep diamonds, our wealth will be threatened. So one moonless night they dragged Juba into the square. There, under the cold stare of the king, they accused him of witchcraft. You consulted with spirits of the sea, they declared. For this you will die. I did nothing but fish, as I have done all my life. Spare me, please, I beg. But his words were swallowed by the drums of judgment. They executed him. and his body was cast into the waters. His wife and children were driven from Lekoma, forced to wander the land with no home, no name, no comfort. From that day, the name of Juba was cursed, forbidden from being spoken within the village. The mermaid, whom they named Erewa, was locked in a chamber beneath the palace. The chamber was deep and damp, with no windows to the sun, only a narrow opening that let in the sounds of the waves. Each morning, the guards came, and if Arewa did not weep willingly, they beat her until tears fell. From those tears came diamonds so bright they could blind the eyes. The chiefs grew greedy. They measured each day harvest of diamond and stored them in chests carved from ebony. The king himself wore a crown encrusted with stones so heavy it made his head ache. But he bore it with pride, for the world bowed to him. Yet Erewa grew weaker. Her songs, once sweet as the sea breeze, turned to silence. She would whisper, "Please, let me go back to my people. The sea is calling me." But no one listened. With Juba gone and Arewa enslaved, the kingdom flourished. Merchants sailed from distant lands, bringing treasures never before seen in Lekoma. Gold, ivory, clothes dyed in deepest purple, and horses taller than any man. The people of Lekoma built houses of stones and towers that gleamed under the sun. The markets overflowed with spices, silks, and weapons. King Kadim's power grew so great that neighboring villagers bowed before him. He demanded tribute from all who sought to pass through his water. And with the diamond he gained from Erewa, he raised an army with likes of which no one had ever seen. The people of Lekoma believed themselves blessed. They laughed louder, feasted longer, and strutted proudly in garments woven with gold threads. But they did not see the darkness growing beneath their riches. One night, while Erewa lay in her prison, she whispered to the waves through the small opening in her chamber, "O great mother of the deep, hear me. They have stolen my freedom, broken my spirit, and turned my tears to stones for their greed. Do not forget me." And the sea answered with a rumble that shook the earth. From that night, strange things began to happen. The tides grew stronger, pulling fishermen farther than they intended. Nets came up heavy with fish one day and empty the next day. Storms struck suddenly, tearing through the boats and huts alike. But the people of Lekoma, blinded by their wealth, ignored the warnings. King Kadim said, "The sea does not curse us, it enriches us. Do not fear for the storm, fear poverty instead." And the people obeyed. Years passed. Erewa grew weaker, her body wasting away. The diamonds still fell, but fewer each year. The king grew anxious, for he knew if she dies, the wealth of Lekoma might fade. One morning, Erewa whispered to a guard, her voice barely more than a breath, "Tell your king, the sea does not forgive. When my last tears fall, Lekoma will pay the price." The guard laughed and struck her, saying, "The sea is nothing before our king." But the guard was wrong. For one morning, as the sun rose, Erewa closed her eyes and sang one final song. It was a song of sorrow, so haunting that even the waves paused to listen. Then, with a single tear, brighter than any before, she breathed her last breath. That day, the sea grew calm, as if holding its breath. But the people did not mourn, for the final diamond was larger than any they had ever seen. They placed it in the king's crown, declaring Lekoma the richest kingdom in the world. But the sea never forgets. King Kadim grew old, and before his death, he called his son to his side. "Remember what I have shown you," he said. "Our greatness comes from the tears of the sea. Guard the secret well and never let our wealth fade." So the secret was passed from king to king, father to son. Each generation lived in luxury, never knowing the face of the mermaid who had given her life for their riches. But the curse of the sea lingered, silent and patient, waiting for the day when Lekoma would pay its debt. And so we come to the time of Obi, the prince who brings forth love and ruin to his people. But that is a story for another night. Perhaps for the next part of our tale. The fire is warm and the night is still young. Listen well, for the tale grows deeper, like the sea beyond the horizon. Erewa, the first mermaid, was gone, her last song swallowed by the waves. The chiefs of Lekoma believe they have triumphed, for the diamonds she left behind filled their treasures for years. Yet the sea had not forgotten, and neither had the spirit that dwells beneath it. It was in the time of first glory that a boy named Obi was born. King Obanla, grandson of Kadim, ruled the kingdom then. He was a man of ambition, stern and proud. His wife, Queen Adanna, gave birth on a night when the moon shone so bright upon the sea that the waves looked like they were coated in silver. The elders gathered and said, "The child is blessed, for the sea smiles on him." But an old priestess, known as Mama Ife, shook her head. Her eyes clouded with age, yet sharp as an eagle, saw beyond the glitters. She whispered, "No blessings come from the sea without a price. Mark my word, this boy's life will be tied to the waters, for better or for worse." They laughed at her, dismissing her warning as the rambling of a woman too close to the grave. But Mama Ife only sighed, knowing the people of Lekoma had grown deaf to wisdom. Obi grew strong and handsome. His skin was the rich bronze of the sun, his eyes deep and watchful like the sea at dusk. He was quick with a smile and quicker with kindness. The people loved him, for though he was a prince, he walked among them as a brother. He swam with the fishermen, helped the women carry their baskets sometimes, and sat by the elders to hear their stories. Yet, even as a boy, Obi felt the pull of the sea. He would sit by the shores for hours, staring at the horizon as though something called to him.